Let's date forever. Here's your weekly dose of relationship fuel with Sammy and Nathan Yeager. Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about creating systems to share the mental load in your relationship, how a humming household can add fuel to every tank, flipping from household management reactivity to proactivity, and stopping life admin from taking over your whole life. But before we jump into that, Sammy, what's been fueling you up this week? I have a feeling I know what this might be, and it might be same, but different to mine.
I have so many things that fueled me up this week. I had 2 nights away for a business retreat to close out my 2023 and make some intentional plans for 2024. And that worked really beautifully because Nathan and I had done our annual game plan a couple weeks earlier. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back a couple of weeks and listen to how we created our annual game plan. And if you want to get the agenda, you can get it at sammyyeager.com/AGP. Go check it out. So that was really nourishing for me. I got to spend a couple of days with other female business owners, entrepreneurs, creators, podcasters, authors, speakers, which was really, really beautiful for me. So that fueled me up. We also had our 11th wedding anniversary this week, which Nath planned a beautiful date for us, which also really fueled me up. And we got to drink our wedding champagne and exchange gifts and go out for a really lovely lunch. And then we actually shared it with some of my family too, who were visiting from interstate.
And we had a little getaway as well with them.
Yes, we did. Yeah. And then the cherry on top was that both Nath and I competed in a triathlon and we both finished it.
That was the goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, finish it.
Yeah. So this was my first ever triathlon, so it's definitely what fueled me up as well. And yeah, it was a really amazing experience. I probably hadn't trained as much as I should have, but I was really confident going in that I was at least going to finish it and kind of hit my goal, and I managed to do that. So yeah, it felt really great after achieving it.
Was that your big fuel up?
Yeah,
or did I steal them all?
Well, that and our anniversary, yeah.
Lucky 11.
Yeah, it was. But now let's hand over to this week's guest.
Today we've got Mia Northrop joining us. Mia is co-host of the top-rated how-to podcast, Life Admin Life Hacks. She's the co-author of Life Admin Hacks and co-creator of the Art of Adulting online course. Resources dedicated to helping people win back time, save money, reclaim their headspace, and nurture household harmony. Welcome to the show, Mia.
Thanks so much, Sammy. Wonderful to be here.
It's exciting to have you.
This is like one of my favorite things to chat about because I'm all about saving time and money and reclaiming it so that I can do more fun things and spend more time on things that I really enjoy and our beautiful relationship too. So, Mia, how on earth did you get interested in adulting and teaching other people how to adult even better?
Yeah, this was quite the sort of unexpected direction to be heading in. It was really one of those necessity is the mother of invention stories. So I had a girlfriend. We had a weekend away with some old high school friends. And these are women I've known since I was like 15 years old. And it was Friday night. We've driven down the coast. Out comes the wine. Out comes the cheese. We start talking about life and what's been happening. And then we started venting. And we started venting about life admin. We were talking about the relentless number of forms that we seem to be filling in for our children and all the school communications and trying to stay on top of bills and organising, what was happening for school holidays and how did you know which retirement fund you should be picking and just all of the life admin stuff. And we came away from that thinking, like, hasn't someone sorted this? Have we just not got the right app or the right book? Like, this feels like something we're clearly all suffering in terms of dealing with life admin. Surely someone solved this.
Did we miss this lesson in school?
Yeah. Exactly. Did we just sort of, we've been busy. We should look up and look around. And so my business partner and I, Dinah, we went and kind of had a look. We're like, is there stuff out there? We'd wanted to do work together for a long time. And this idea that there's something in this didn't go away. And a few weeks later, we went out to lunch and we're like, let's solve this. So her background's in operations. So she's very much always looking at processes and tools to make things efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And my background's in user experience design. So looking at online experiences and making them elegant and seamless and supporting people with their tasks. And I'm like, let's apply our professional knowledge and solve this, not just for ourselves, but for all the people we know out there who are stressing about this stuff. Because as you said, it can save so much time. We were spending way too much time doing this stuff and reinventing the wheel. It was taking up way too much headspace, like, waking up at 3 a.m. thinking, oh my God, I've forgotten to do that. And I need to get on top of this. And it can cause some friction in households because often it's not shared equitably. It can come down to one person in the household to be looking after all this stuff.
You can call it out, Mia, and sometimes, more often, that one person is the woman.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a heteronormative relationship.
Yeah, that's it. It is the women juggling this. They're juggling the life admin. They're juggling the mental load for the family. Or even in couples, it can, it starts pretty early on in relationships where suddenly there's a whole bunch of decision-making and responsibility that'll be sitting on one person's shoulders. And for both Diana and me, we were on the cusp of burnout. We had full-time jobs. We had young children. And you're trying to do it all, and it's stressful and unsatisfying, and we're like, all right, let's conquer this. And initially we came at it from very much wanting the tools, the processes, the systems to make it all elegant, to streamline it all. But then a very big part of it was also about sharing the tasks and sharing the mental load and making that much easier every step of the way. So, yeah, I came at it in a circuitous way, but this is my focus now because, I can't tell you the number of listeners and readers and followers who reach out and tell us their situation and their story and how they've applied some of their techniques and strategies, and it's made a massive difference to their lives, a massive difference to their stress levels, a massive difference to their participation in the paid workforce, knowing that they can take on more responsibility because things are feeling under control at home. So these are really important. This is beautiful, it's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
I love supporting women in this way.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Nathan and I got married in 2012 and we were in our very early 20s, and we're probably a minority of couples who had lived together as housemates. We were housemates. We were friends before we were ever romantically involved. So we'd had a year's worth of coexisting in the same household with no implied idea that I would take care of Nath as his romantic partner. So
it's gonna feel fair.
Yeah. So at some point, I don't know when that happened, we did have a shift into now we're romantic partners, and then it was probably when we moved to house for the second or third time that it was like, okay, somehow the deck needs reshuffling. But it was around maybe 2015 or so when we'd been living in Sydney for about a year. We'd made the move from Adelaide to Sydney together. We were both building new networks. We were both in new roles. I'd changed career direction, and it had become very apparent that our home and our household was reactive. Everything was reactive. When we did laundry, when we did the dishes, when we did grocery shopping, when bills got paid. And I don't remember the exact breaking point, but I was in a silent war with Nathan that he knew nothing about who was accountable and who was responsible for taking care of the hygiene and cleanliness of our fridge. And I was like, I bet he doesn't even know that I do this task. I'm just going to stop. And it got bad, Mia. It got real bad.
I was going to say, it's an interesting place to, frontier to wage a battle, because I can imagine it getting pretty gross pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, there was a cucumber that was no longer cucumber shaped. It was far more liquid in shape, but I would like to think that I wouldn't go about solving a conflict so passive aggressively this many years on. But yes, that was probably one of the breaking points of I feel like there's so many things that I'm doing for this household that you don't even see, Nath, or that you're not even aware that I'm doing. So we've been through a huge evolution about applying the same thing that you were talking about principles and ideas from our professional lives and businesses into our what we now refer to as our humming household. So what tasks could we delete? Yeah, what could we eliminate? What could we automate? What could we delegate? So I would love, I'm all ears, open, ready to receive your favorite life hacks. But really, I would love to know, like, what are the handful of maybe systems or processes that couples should really think about implementing or have down pat in the various areas of having a beautiful humming household?
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, there was just two things that I wanted to just respond to in terms of what you raised. And one great point you made was around how so many of these tasks can be invisible. And one of the first things to do is bring them into the light and make it transparent about the things that are going on that make the household hum successfully. So we talk about having things like a digital calendar, a shared digital calendar that you can both see. So everyone has a source of truth of what's going on.
Yeah.
And to put on, and it sounds a bit funny, but you put on some of that housework and some of that life admin that needs to happen each week for the house to function. So you might put on the days that laundry needs to happen, the days that you do like meal planning or grocery shopping, the days where you're going to do cleaning or, bulk meal prep. And as you go through different seasons of life, and if you end up having kids, like all the activities that are involving the kids that you both need to be across need to go on that shared calendar so you can see the commitments and there's visibility to the fact that there's work going on, and then you can have a discussion about, okay, these are the things that need to happen and that we need to make time for and decide who's doing what. So that's a really, first thing. And some people kind of balk at the idea of putting things like that on the calendar, but it's like it's taking up someone's time, and it does sort of raise that visibility, puts it into neutral territory.
I love that you shared that one. So in my calendar, I have a reoccurring meeting appointment every Monday morning for an apartment reset. And I probably spend about 90 minutes every Monday morning, and I will do all the bins, clean the bathroom, replenish anything that's like consumable, like our toilet paper, the dog food bin, like all of that sort of stuff. And it was probably about 2 years ago that I started doing that and recognizing, hey, these are things that I'm responsible and accountable for in this home. And if I don't block out the time to do it, when do I think I'm actually going to get it done?
That's it. Yeah. Because you kind of start to think, oh, this stuff will happen in magic time.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't happen at all. Exactly. Or you cram so much in the day that you're, having to get up at the crack of dawn, or you're doing it at 11 p.m. at night, which is where I was finding myself. I was literally outside hanging up clothes in the dark thinking, this is no way to be living. Mm-hmm. This has got to stop. So, yeah, I'm glad that you do that, Sammy.
And Nath can see it.
Yeah.
I don't. He's got a different system, but that's what works for me.
Yeah. The other thing you mentioned around, just watching the fridge and seeing everything liquefy, you don't want to approach things like that, in a passive aggressive way.
Yeah. Current day Sammy knows better.
But there is a big case to be made of having boundaries and deciding, okay, this is my boundary. This is what I'm happy to do. And obviously having a conversation about it so that it's clear, why you have a boundary or what you're happy to take on and condone. But then to stick to that boundary, because I think for a lot of couples, they can decide who's going to do what. And then if your partner takes on a responsibility for something and they don't quite do it like you do it, or they don't meet your standards, inverted quotes, then you can swoop in and rescue them, or you can kind of, railroad and just sort of take over. And that's sort of referred to as over functioning. And often there is one person in the relationship who was over functioning and either rescuing the other person or sort of taking over and railroading and doing a lot of the things. So it can be really important to recognize, okay, we have to set boundaries of who's doing what. And that, the person who's over-functioning needs to step back a little and just let the other person do it like they're going to do it, but have a conversation about it so you can be clear on what's expected of each of you and agree that that's fair.
And that's one of those things that, like, in the scheme of the world and your relationship, does the way that they stack the dishwasher or fold the towels, or in our case, fold T-shirts. You can see my eye twitching, Mia. Doesn't
I'm
really
the one
matter.
that has the.
Nath folds like he works in a retail department store. Everything is immaculately,
Have
and
you
I'm
seen
just
the
like,
Beckham
oh, I
documentary?
can't.
Have you seen the way Beckham
Oh,
folds
I'm
his
not
t-shirts?
that bad. I'm not that bad.
Yeah, it's good out there. But yeah, Sammy, exactly. You're right. You know, are you going to get hung up on the details of how they're doing something, or are you just happy that you have one less thing to do and they're doing it? So that's when you have to take the breath and just let go and walk away. I have less to do.
Like you sort of said, Mia, Nathan and I don't have children, and we don't plan to have children, but I imagine that this probably enters really challenging territory when you're trying to co-parent together and set a standard for your little people about what is and isn't okay and what you're comfortable with and, you know, all of those kind of things. So I imagine
that's a whole other realm.
Yeah.
There's a whole other realm of parenting and, you know, where you're a united front, but also recognizing that your partner has their own relationships with the kids and you can't micromanage those relationships. They have to sort out things themselves and work out their own dynamics. But that's a whole other, I couldn't claim to be an expert in that at all, but you're right, it is a whole other way of letting go.
But it just the agreement of like, what do we agree is a reasonable standard of care? And it might not be my 100% at my expectations, but it might be 120 at Nate's expectations or vice versa. But like, do we agree that this is, you know, how often does the bin get emptied? Is it every day or is it when it's full?
Yeah. Yeah. But you asked earlier about sort of what are the foundations, what are my favorite hacks? I guess what Dana and I looked at were what are the tools or the processes that if you set up your environment, it's going to make all other life admin tasks easier. And so we came up with these foundational tools. One was having the digital calendar, so having this single source of truth where everyone knows what's happening in the family, in the couple. One was a password manager, which this was kind of seemed unlikely to be a game changer. Do you both use password managers?
We do.
I don't, but you do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but if I have my password manager installed on your laptop,
You do.
so you could one password manager. I feel like anyone with cybersecurity knowledge is probably like, oh my God, what are they doing? Nightmare, may as well write it in a notebook.
He can have his own account on the same password manager and you can share all the passwords. That's okay. That's doable. Have a family account there. But a password manager is one of those things that will save you so much time as your, cybersecurity aside, it saves you so much time logging in all over the place, filling in forms all over the place, and also being a place where you can store some of that sensitive documentation, like copies of your passports and your Medicare card and your license, so that you can basically fill out a form or provide that, 100-point ID check wherever you are, because you've always got your password manager on your phone or on your laptop. And when you are sharing it with a partner, in a responsible way, it means that they also can share the life admin, so that if someone needs to log in to pay a bill or if someone wants to switch electricity providers, they're not saying, oh, I can't do it because you've got all the passwords and I can't get into the account. So it's another way of splitting those tasks and sharing those tasks. Another one of the foundational tools is around setting up cloud storage. So we actually recommend that people have a dedicated life admin email address. So instead of all the bills and all the correspondence from your providers going to your personal email accounts, you set up one for you as a family. So it might be like Shay Yeager, Kaza Yeager, whatever. And all of the bills, all of the boring stuff, all the government stuff gets sent to that email address. And again, it's in neutral territory where you can decide who's going to go in and deal with what. And then if you have cloud storage, attached to that, so say maybe you have a Gmail email address and you set up your Google Drive, then it's like literally a one click to save any documents you need to into that filing system. And we recommend like a certain folder structure because, life admin is universal. We all have the same things we need to save for tax and super and, investments and wills and whatever. So we suggest a folder structure, and then you can file things easily. And again, you can access that from anywhere. It's not some, system that you have in a little concertina file in the back of a drawer or a whole bunch of folders exploding in a shelf. It's beautifully tucked away in the cloud, ready to be shared with your accountant or your partner or a family member or whoever when it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely been something that we've been working on over the last sort of 12 months. Like we've had cloud storage for quite some time, but it's really kind of that, I don't know, like that death folder or that life admin folder, and making sure that everything is kind of there so that if something was to go wrong or if someone needed to access that information, that it's all kind of there all in one space.
Mia, this year we did our will. Well, no, it was last year we did our will.
Congratulations, because I can't tell you, like most people do not have a will. They have houses, they have children, they still haven't gone around to getting a will. So good on you.
Thank you. And it was one of those things, like this was Sammy, current day Sammy and Nath taking care of future Sammy and Nath. And I think, you know, everybody needs to be pouring some fuel into that future tank every now and then. But when we entered this process, we were like, it'll be simple. It'll be easy.
Like,
we don't own that much. We don't.
Yeah.
And then as the further we went into it, there was actually a lot of conversations still to have. But yeah, it was like we did start having some pretty like funny kind of morbid conversations about, well, actually, yeah, if we did die on a plane together, who would even know who our real estate agent is? Who would even know where to go and pick up our dog from daycare? Like who would even know which banks we bank with? Or yeah, so we're leaning into this ecosystem and the executor of our will have the magic Google Drive link.
Yeah. It is morbid, but it's important, and it makes such a difference. If you guys don't die, or you're just becoming incapacitated in some way, if you both got really sick, or, you know, so that part of that sort of digital estate planning where someone has access so they can set up legacy contacts. So if you have a password manager, you can put in a contact for emergencies, and after a certain however their algorithm works, and they determine that you haven't used this very recently, what's up?
You're dead.
They will email and say, is everything okay? If not, you know, you've been nominated as the person who can access all this. And you can do that for all your social media accounts. You can do that for Google. You should set that up today so that someone can get in there and control your digital footprint if anything were to happen to you. So responsible of you guys. Good on you.
Thanks. We felt like real adults.
It is. It's a hallmark.
Yeah, we get a badge for that, I'm
You
sure.
do. I'll give you some merch. There's some merch. The other two things that are sort of foundational tools are about lists. So having a to-do list, having reference lists and checklists. And these are things that people often have in their professional life, but do not have for their personal lives. They might have some random sticky notes or things they scroll on pieces of paper or in a little book, but they don't really have a methodical way of having a to-do list and actually reviewing it and prioritizing it. And then having reference lists, which are lists that you refer to over time that don't have like a deadline. So it might be books you want to read, podcasts you want to listen to, gift wish lists for yourself, gift wish lists for your partner, places you want to go on holiday, all that kind of thing that you don't want to have clogging up your memory. You can download into a reference list. And then checklists you can use as, you know, for repeatable tasks. So say you guys are going on holiday, you know that to prepare to go on holiday, you've got to organise for the dog to be looked after, you know, think about the mail, think about the plans, switch off some subscriptions, blah, 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 blah. There'll be some set things that you need to do each time. And so to help you from having to reinvent the wheel or just forgetting stuff, you can create these checklists. So we talk about setting up these lists, ideally in your phone, so that you can refer to them. And then you can use things like Siri or the Google Assistant or all the other AIs out there to talk to them to remember to add things to those lists, because I always seem to remember things when I'm driving in the car. Siri helps me out. And the final thing is around money management and budgeting, or sort of money tracking, and having apps set up so that you can get up close and personal with your finances and actually know how you're going in terms of income and expenses and tracking towards your savings. They are the must-haves. They are that's the foundation. They're the tools you need set up. And when they're convenient and they're apps and tools that you really like and know how to use, then that makes dealing with all the actual life admin that comes your way so much easier.
We maybe you should share a little bit about this, Nath, but every Sunday we have what started out as happy hour, where we do a check-in chat and we go through a handful of questions to set us up for success, reflect on the week that we had, what's going on this coming week. We talk about money, sex, food, what's going on in the calendar, our relationship.
Money, sex, food. That's like the top three.
In no particular order.
Yeah.
But yeah, something that we've started doing, even just in the last maybe 6 months, is actively going through our to-do list in that kind of catch up.
Beautiful.
And something that we're sort of trialing is creating a new to-do list every week that has the week commencing, so that you're not ever looking at one giant list that just grows and grows and grows and grows and grows and gets overwhelming. But you can go back and go, okay, well, I've still got one thing hanging on from 3 weeks ago. Maybe I should start there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's just in that, like, we're both Apple users. It's just like the
In the
native reminders app.
Yeah.
And you can share, you can add a deadline, you can assign things to one another, and we just share it, and it's been working incredibly well for us.
Yeah.
It's been a little level up for our humming household.
Yeah,
That's
we used
great.
to use another app called Wonderlist a number of years ago, and that app then got
It died.
it
We went
died.
to app heaven.
Quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
We've
got
tried them all.
acquired. It got acquired and got broken, and then we've been trying to find a solution for ages. And
Reminders is where it's at on the iPhone. Literally, we have tried all the apps, and every new one surface. To-do-list is quite good, but the reminders is so powerful. Like, it really has so many of the features that you would need. I love that you can set, obviously there's normal sort of deadline stuff, but you can set reminders related to locations, so that if you have something like, fill this script, you can put in the pharmacy or the shopping centre where you're probably going to go. And so when you're driving and approaching that place, the little reminder will come up on your phone and nudge you, like, don't forget, you want to go and do this. And you can also set it up for contacts. So if you wanted to, say you need to chat with your mum about upcoming Christmas arrangements, you can tag your mum next to that task as well. And so that next time you're messaging your mum, it'll pop up and remind you. It's like, this is awesome.
That's next level. I'm going to start assigning those ones to you, Nath. Next time you're talking to your folks, please ask them.
Please chat about A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
But like a little weekly check-in, we talk in the book about having a momentum meeting. And it is that idea where you're sitting together, you're looking at, what do you need to collaborate on, what's coming up, what fun have you got scheduled for the next little while, how are you going to divvy up some tasks. And as you said, it's a really good idea to look through your to-dos to get rid of anything that's become obsolete or is like a total aspirational red herring that you're like, oh, that was a pipe dream, wasn't that? That's never going to happen. And to keep it fresh, like keep it dynamic, shuffle things around. Otherwise it can get really stale and you kind of get list blindness where the top three things have been there for 4 weeks and you've got no intention of actually doing them and you just kind of ignore them. Just delete them or move them to the bottom.
Yeah. We're finding it really helpful. And I think having that conversation every week also allows us to have a lot of compassion for one another, as opposed to like, I asked you to do that 5 weeks ago. And it's like, well, no, we've talked about it every week and agreed that's probably not going to happen this week. That, like you said, like that's a pipe dream for this week based on all of the other priorities and the conversation that we've just had about what's on each other's plate. Like, do you know what? Yeah, the door stoppers do need replacing, but like, is it really going to matter? Like, but I can also give some grace then. It's not like, oh, Nathan, I asked you to do this thing. This is a real one, by the way.
We bought the door stops probably, I reckon we bought these door stops probably 6 months ago. And
is this
they're not
related?
installed
Is
yet.
it become a dog toy? I'm so curious.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just one of those, we've all got these little things, right? Yeah. And even just things like, oh, I have intent to move that picture that's on the wall to a different wall. Those little things like, oh, I need to buy the 3M sticky things next time, the blah, blah, blah. All of the things. But it does become an overwhelming list of these tiny little tasks that do add up. And then when you're holding a bag full of marbles, it gets heavy and it's hard to find the one that you're looking for.
Yeah. It's so important to retain that compassion and have that check-in because, some people think these conversations are you kind of have once and then that's it, you're good to go. But life, every week is different. We've all got different things we're dealing with in terms of our, working lives and our personal lives and our energy levels and what's happening with the moon. Like, we're always in flux. So it's great to have that weekly rhythm where you are checking in with each other and seeing how you're going and seeing, what's helping you flourish and thrive and where's your energy going, what's feeling challenging, and what are the priorities for us? What are the priorities for us as an individual and as a couple? And just recalibrating. And it's beautiful. I think some people, it's depending on, what season of life you're in, things can be really quite stable for a long time. And then different things happen, different life events happen, and you realize, actually, you need to redesign your life all the time. It's not, I think when I had my first kiddo, I had this sort of massive, like, oh my God, as she grows and changes and goes through these developmental milestones, her needs will change, which means we'll have to accommodate that in a different way. I was thinking, so we will be redesigning our life like every 6 months. It's going to look really different. And that slows down as they get older. But it's sort of the same with in a couple, people are changing and growing, and you do have to redesign things to make sure that you are accommodating each other as you grow and change and your needs change.
Yeah. What I like about the foundational tools that you've shared is so many of them are angled towards how can we most readily stay on the same page? How do we get on that same page and how do we stay there?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not sitting in one person's domain. You've both got access to it. There's transparency there and anybody can act on it. And you can, split things up. So even if one person's planning it, another person can execute on it because they have enough of the detail to just run with it if need be. And that's really important because, there's things like, let's take, cooking dinner, for example, where often it can be in one person's head, like, what are we eating for dinner this week? And it's in one person's head, what needs to be bought at the supermarket. And during the week, no one else can really do the cooking because they don't know really what's in the fridge and what the plan was. So when you start putting those things into lists or putting them into calendars that can be shared, then anyone can act on it. Anyone can go and do the shopping. Anyone can make dinner because they know what was intended and what ingredients are available. So that's one way of dealing with that mental load, by just setting up your environment to support it. That's one part of it. There's also all of the conversations that need to happen about, what you want your partnership to look like and what does an equal partnership feel like, and making sure that you're able to express your feelings and share examples where you'd like to see some changes in behaviour or changes in expectations.
Yeah. I think that task of like cooking dinner, I think it's such a great one to have because we all eat and there's so many layers to what happens before you sit down to eat, right? The conceiving, the planning, the executing, the budgeting, and those all have very different start and finish elements to that phase of the process. And then like linking all of that together in context of the rest of your life and recognizing that we're going to have to do this, or we get to do this for forever. This is not like with this project of cooking dinner is never going to end. So let's set up a system that really does work for us. So Nathan and I have tried all sorts of different things in this space because this was one of the big mental load pieces for me, and it probably in a lot of ways still is. But we've definitely found ways to reduce that. So we tried like the HelloFresh meal kits for quite a while.
And that worked for an age and stage of our life. Really well.
Yeah, because that same thing, Mia, where like I was I had the plan of what was in the fridge and what ingredients needed to be used first and all of that sort of stuff. But with the HelloFresh, it was like, okay, you just take the whole bag and Nath can pick a bag. Doesn't matter what. Yeah. And that. Yeah, whereas now we've sort of moved to a subscription service of fruit and vegetables, and we get that every week, and that's fresh, and it comes. It's actually a beautiful organization called Good and Fugly, and they have all of the farm fresh carrots and stuff that are
cool.
They're just not supermarket sexy.
NQR fruit and veggie that half the time looks just fine.
Yeah, and taste delicious. So we love that. And then we've integrated doing the menu plan as part of our Sunday night as well. Like, we don't have to have this on Monday night, but like, here's some of the meals we're thinking about having this week. And then we back that up with a monthly pantry and staple shop. We just do it once a month, all the cans,
Woolworths
all the dry
delivery.
goods, all the whatever. It's in a repeatable Woolworths list. You just kind of tick, add all items to cart, and then we just kind of look over it and make sure there's not quadruples of anything.
There's two beautiful things going on there. One is like just automating as much as you can. So it's reducing that need to make decisions, and it's saving you so much time. So anything where you can make a list once and just duplicate, send it again, or replicate, or put it on repeat, embrace all of that, because it saves so much time and headache. And the other thing was around sort of outsourcing. Like, you know, when it comes to food or making dinner, for example, there's this continuum of outsourcing where at one end you're making everything from scratch, at the other end you're going out to a restaurant. And then in between you've got things like meal kits, you've got things like buying pre-cut fruit and veggies, you've got things like getting takeaway. So, you know, whenever there's sort of an area where it is stressing people out, or you don't have time, or you're looking to make things less effortful, you can look at that continuum of outsourcing. It's like, how can we lessen the load for ourselves in a little bit? And some outsourcing, like, is cheaper than marriage counselling, like getting a cleaner, you know?
Yeah.
It's way easier to get a cleaner come in the fortnight than have this stress between you about who's cleaning what and is it clean enough. And so embracing that.
And also buying back the time that you then get to invest in your relationship and spend together. Like that's also like, you're not really buying the service of cleaning, you're buying back your Saturday morning or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, like, some outsourcing is essentially free. Like, getting your groceries delivered, you can find a $0 time slot to get your groceries delivered.
Yep.
And someone's gone through and picked all those groceries, put them all in bags, they've driven them to your house, they've carried them up the stairs. And in our case,
carried them up the stairs.
Yeah, dumped them on your doorstep, and it's just a matter of unpacking them then.
Yeah.
Like,
we save hours and hours every single week by not doing that task. By not manually driving to the shops, wandering around in circles.
Diana had pandemic notwithstanding, when a lot of us weren't going to the supermarket, but she had a whole year where she didn't step foot in a supermarket. Yeah. She had a list set up, and it was pretty much just on repeat, and she'd get it delivered to her kitchen because she, you know, it took up so much time and headspace to go into a store, and it just gave her so much joy.
Yeah.
And actually, I wanted to pick up on you saying, you know, having time to invest in your relationship and using that time well, because that's sort of another area of life admin that can fall on one person's shoulders, and that is creating your social life. So it's one thing to, you know, drive your social life as an individual, but often someone is doing that for you as a couple as well. So it's great to hear that, you know, when you're sitting down for your weekly check-in, you're also talking about what social activities you want to do. And it's an opportunity to share the load there. So it's not always the one person who's coming up with ideas or reaching out and connecting with people saying, you know, do you want to do X, Y, and Z? Because that is, you know, again, someone has to think about it. Someone has to make the fun happen. It doesn't just happen by itself. And it can be a lot of work. And it's nice when someone else arranges things for you and you just get to show up and have fun.
That was one part of our we should really start calling it like the great recalibration of our life and our marriage and our intent for what we were co-creating together. But I think we're going to share the same thing. So you share.
Yeah. Just talking about our date nights, and like we've got a really nice practice that essentially I will organise a date within the first half of the month, and then Sammy will organise a date in the second half of the month. And so that's everything from conceiving the idea, like deciding where we're going, making the booking if it's a restaurant or whatever activity we're doing, working out how we're going to get there and get home. Like, it's conceiving it from start to finish. It's not just going, oh yeah, I'm going to pick this date and we're going to have a date that night. Like, it's actually executing from start to finish.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And it's so sweet. Like, it just, you know, it's wonderful when you can do this for each other. It's so satisfying, and it's win-win because, you know, you're reciprocating in that way. What are your love languages? I'm so curious what your love languages are, each of you.
Mine's physical touch.
Nath loves to be cuddled and touched and head scratched. Yeah. I think I'm in transition. For a long, long time, I would have said with 100% certainty that it was gifts. And now I actually think it is leaning more and more towards acts of service. For me, the gifts was never really about the tangible thing, but it just melts my heart when someone has picked up something in a conversation where I've mentioned that I really like something or I'm looking forward to something, or just, is in the supermarket and sees that, my favorite chocolate bar is on sale and buys it for me. Like, that just melts my heart so much. But yeah, I definitely think in the last few years, like, I've felt more love and appreciation and gratitude for Nath in particular, like doing things that have lightened my load, or tasks that maybe I don't like or I'm not good at. Yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very close second if it's not your top one.
But then I think about not ever getting gifts, and I'm like, no, that would be hurtful.
It's a strong secondary, maybe. I mentioned it because, again, with life admin and housework, so we kind of differentiate between housework and life admin. Life admin's kind of like the paperwork side of things. It's the actual admin, and housework's kind of the cleaning, the laundry, the cooking. But either way, like, if your love language is acts of service, then often doing a lot of this stuff, doing a lot of the life admin is a way that you demonstrate and show love. And it's also how you experience love. So when someone else does do those things and takes the load off you, picks up a lot of the tasks around the household, it is a way of you experiencing love. So for those of you who are aware of your love languages and think about what it feels like for the other person to give love and experience love, and think about how that's playing out with your life admin, it can be a bit of just a good thing to reflect on, because it's a way that you might demonstrate love to them.
And if anyone's not familiar with the Gary Chapman's 5 love languages, we've just talked about 3 of them there being gifts, physical touch, acts of service, but the other 2 are quality time and words of affirmation. So even as you're hearing that, you might know which one, but there is a quiz you can go and do. Just give it a Google, Gary Chapman, 5 love languages.
Yeah, I'm words of affirmation.
Oh, Mia, you're fabulous. Okay, so before we kind of wrap this up, I'm really curious, like, as you started to implement more and more of these life hacks, life admin hacks into your world, how did that change your relationship with yourself?
I think one of the key things that comes to mind is that having these different tools in place meant I felt less overwhelmed, because I had strategies. I knew there were things I could do to get on top of my life admin. So when there's, we talk about the sort of everyday life admin of just paying the bills, filling in the forms, meal planning, all the normal things. And then there's life admin, like when you're moving house or starting a new job, we have a baby, like those big things that happen that generate their own little tsunamis of life admin. And so it meant that when sort of a life event or a big thing happened, instead of just feeling overwhelmed, I kind of thought, this is going to be okay, because I've got my tools and I've got my strategies, and I'll just be consistent and it's going to be okay. And that made me feel, I guess, empowered me, and it gave me that level of confidence that I can deal with it. Because one of the things we hear most often from people is that life admin is overwhelming, and they're just kind of in coping mode and reactive, as you said, Sammy, at the start. Like, you're just kind of whacking moles, swatting flies and putting out fires. So I think that's how it changed my relationship with myself. It was sort of just feeling I had this new capability.
Yeah, it's a very different thing. Like, the visual that comes to mind for me is like if you were in a baseball batting cage, and it's the difference between being blindfolded or not. Like when you're totally reactive and you're just responding to what's coming at you, and you don't know when it's coming or where it's coming from, or you're hearing noise and then you're like, what was that?
What am I swinging at though? Yeah. Versus
like actually being able to see what's coming, planning for it, preparing to hit it back. Very, very different energy. And I think you kind of have the choice, don't you? It's like you can spend your time, money, and energy reacting to paying bills, or you can deploy the energy up front and set up the automation or
That's
set up
right.
the calendar reminder.
Yeah.
And either way, you have to spend the time and the energy and the money paying the bill. It's just how you go about doing it.
You can do it once or you can do it every month. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So that small investment up front just has that long-term payoff. So it might be fiddly setting it up initially, but it just pays you back many times. It's funny, when you were describing that visual, I went to Star Wars and like the Star Wars where he's got the lightsaber but he's blindfolded and he's just swatting at that little thing. But the other thing that came to mind then also was that when you got the baseball coming at you, you can actually decide what you're going to swing at, because
Totally.
then you also have decisions around, your priorities, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to let that one go through. It's not important right now. So you don't feel like you have to come out swinging and hitting and everything. You can just go, no, not that one.
The door stoppers. Let the door stoppers just fly on by.
Oh, metaphors are all over the place right now.
I imagine if someone's only listening to the last few minutes of this episode, it's very confusing, I'm sure. And I think that's a really big part of this show about dating forever, and that's about actively adding fuel to your relationship with yourself and your chosen person. And I think sometimes we do get a bit lost that self-care looks like bubble baths or retail therapy or going for a massage, or when what you really need to do is sit down with your 6 reoccurring bills and set them up on BPay automation or on direct debit or whatever. And that would actually be far more nourishing and add more fuel into the tank than one of the first few things that I mentioned about like self-care. And same like what Nathan and I said about doing our will. Like, did either of us really want to do that task? Not really. Not particularly. Like booking a lawyer, finding a lawyer, digging through paperwork, like, but how much peace of mind it has given me. I love past me that she did that for future me.
I feel like that's we've been talking about that in our Art of Adulting program at the moment about self-care. And as you said, the stereotypical idea of it is that you're retreating, you're making yourself less available, you're hiding with a bubble bath and some cucumbers on your eyes or something. But often it is about looking after your future you. It's about setting your future you up for success. And often it is also about being more expansive. So instead of kind of constricting and retreating from the world, sometimes self-care is actually expanding, going out into the world. And often that can be more re-energizing and be more of a reset, depending on what you need, depending on what your default looks like. So I'm glad that you sort of challenge that stereotype idea of self-care, because it does get misinterpreted a lot.
Yeah, and just I know that the time that a lot of people spend, like, we already talked about it, like going to the supermarket. Some people go every day. Oh, that's my nightmare. Or at least like every week or every fortnight. I just think about how much extra time I have to go and do a beautiful coastal walk with my dog.
Yeah.
Because I'm not doing that task. When I'm pouring fuel into my humming household tank, I'm also pouring fuel into my relationship with myself and my relationship with my husband and my future self as well.
Yeah. Like most things, just bringing some intentionality to it. You might even not realize I am going to the supermarket every day. And it sort of just happened by accident. It's fine if you like it, if it's like a ritual for you because it's part of your food culture. But if you just find yourself at the supermarket every day with no kind of conscious decision to do that, it's an opportunity to step back. And a lot of life admin happens that way. It's sort of just ad hoc, or it's reactive, or it's by default. You haven't made intentional decisions about when you're going to do it, the tools you're going to do it with, and that makes all of the difference.
Yeah. And those little slithers of time really add up. Like if you're leaving work and going, oh yeah, I'll just quickly duck to the supermarket. How long is that quick duck in? 30, 40 minutes? Like, oh, wouldn't have you like to go home and do a little mini yoga or a stretch or curl up and read your book?
Yeah. Not to mention the impulse spending that probably happens every single time. Something new's on special right near the counter as you're checking out.
Yeah. Mia, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation and for giving us a couple more ideas particularly about the cloud ecosystem. I think we've got like the tactical down, but I think we could elevate.
The bare bones.
Yeah. I really appreciate it. To say thank you, we have actually given a year's worth of seeds to help a family grow some really nourishing food in Malawi. This project has looked after every home global concern, and that's been made possible via our partnership with Buy One, Give One. So thank you so much for being here, and thank you for making that possible.
Oh, thank you. It's such a generous thing to be doing as part of your podcast. It's really admirable.
Yeah, thank
no
you.
worries. So Mia, if people want to connect with you or learn a few more of your life admin hacks, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can jump to our website at lifeadminlifehacks.com. You can sign up for our Momentum newsletter. It's going to deliver you our weekly fortnightly podcast and all the tips and hacks you can handle. And you might like to join the waitlist for our Out of Adulting program. Our next intake is in February. We have monthly masterclasses and mindset sessions and co-working sessions to do our life admin together. So if you want to optimize your life admin and streamline your life admin so you can spend less time on it, come and join us.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Mia, thank you so much. And yeah, I think this is one of those things, like we said, like this will always be evolving. This is not a one and done area of our life.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
This episode of Date Forever has been brought to you by Sammy Yeager and the Fueled Up Life Lab. If you want to learn more, come on over to sammyyeager.com, where you can access stacks of resources to help you fuel up your life and relationship. If you've loved this episode, share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an ep. Thanks for joining us and adding fuel to your tank.